Ryan Fischer, welcome to the Smart Bonding Performance Podcast.
I'm pumped, man. And I'm happy to be in Dubai as well.
You know what? We literally just said off camera, you're from California, I'm from London. Where else would you just run into you and just shoot the shit? We had a coffee for like 45 minutes just talking about life. Like that's Dubai in a nutshell, right?
It's amazing, because I think, you go places and sometimes you don't understand like what the people are like.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes places really interesting. It could be a beautiful place, but if there's not the kind of people that are there that are like kind of on the same wavelength, like people who want to grow, people who want to live. Like I think living is the whole reason we all strive for anything.
Absolutely.
We want to be better personally. We want to be better in our business. We want to be better in our life, relationships, whatever it is. You want to be around other people that have that same kind of vibe. And I feel like a lot of people think Dubai is kind of a little bit more materialistic. It's a little bit flashy, this and that.
Yeah,
to be fair, I don't really feel it. I feel like it feels solid. I like it.
I think, like people see Dubai, they see the highlight reel. They see people when they go to the luxury places. But when you're actually here and you're just kind of living a normal lifestyle here, you're still working, you're just enjoying the sights. It is such a welcoming environment. People see it as this environment that's going to be like intimidating or, make you feel uncomfortable. But you come in, you think, shit, there's so much that I could do. Like I'm not tapped into my potential, right? I think one thing that's funny as well is you go to the gyms here and you kind of think, maybe I train like a bit of a pussy sometimes. You see some of the guys training and we'll go off a full tangent. But one thing I would love to delve into to begin, just to give the listeners some context, as we'll get into the meat and potatoes of mindset and fitness soon. But from homeless to a jail cell, to a top 3 CrossFit athlete in the world, what's your story?
Man, the story, I guess, would just be more or less trying to find myself through sports, I think. Like, I think I talked about this with some other podcasts that I was on, is kind of like, what is that one thing that kind of like kept you motivated, kept you inspired, and, was that driving force behind a lot of things? And I think for me, there was a lot of things that I was missing, like in my home life as a kid. I just met my dad 2 years ago.
Wow. At
36 years old. And I have a lot of brothers and sisters. I grew up with 2 brothers, 2 sisters. Now I have 2 more sisters and 2 more brothers on my dad's side now.
Wow.
Which is a new addition to my life. And I think, back then I was so different from my brothers and so different from my sisters that I just threw myself into sports. And I was on the Olympic team actually in 2010 for skeleton and bobsled. They're winter sports. So when you go down the track head first.
Yeah, of course.
I did that. And then I wound up getting into CrossFit for like 10 years and being a top athlete. And the reason I even did all of that was because I actually wanted to go into the military to be like special forces and all that.
That's cool.
And previous to all of this, I was a helicopter pilot. So, I have like the craziest accolades of things going on. And then ultimately, the reason I'm here and the reason that people think I'm cool is because I built a big fitness app called Chalk Performance Training. Yeah. I have a lot of people on there. We have 40,000 people.
Wow.
And, I do one-on-one coaching like yourself. And I have an actual brick and mortar gym, which is what I started with in California. Yeah. And I just have a big community of people who like to stay fit and all of that. So I think that's the main reason people ask me to come on. But I think at the end of the day, I'm just someone who's really, really passionate about fitness. I really like it. Like I think just like anybody else, I always wonder, like, is this my thing that I'm going to do forever?
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, like, I wake up every single day and like something to do with being active is like my number one priority.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I think I'm doing the right thing.
I ask a lot of people this question. Do you feel like in a way fitness saved your life?
I just think that it adds so much more to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had a somewhat of a similar background as far as sports is concerned. I grew up wanting to be in the SAS. Like that was my thing. I was like, I want to be in the military. I wanted to be SAS. But I was playing football and I was at professional clubs and that was like my goal. Like that was my dream. And it weren't until I was getting on a little bit. I was in and out of professional clubs and I started getting into personal training on the gym floor, right? And it weren't until I got my first client transformation. And that butterfly I got when I went onto the football pitch, I was like, damn, like I can get this shit helping people transform, but just tenfold. That first time someone comes to you and goes, damn, Reese, like I feel great. Like I can move better. My career's better. Like the domino effect for me, I was like, Jesus, this is where I'm meant to be, right? So do you almost feel like you found like home in fitness?
100%. Like amazing. I always, there's a quote out there. It's definitely not mine, but it's like, there's more to life than fitness, but fitness adds so much more to your life.
Wow, that's good.
And you know what I mean? Like, I think without it, like, imagine just like sitting home all day and working and, let's say you're a homebody, you know what I mean? Like you watch movies, you do this, you do that. I meet people like this all the time. Like
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to go paddle boarding. Like this morning we went foil boarding. It was so fun.
Okay.
And back home in California, I paddleboard a lot. I live right on the water.
Yeah.
And I ride my bike and I go to my gym and see my people and all of that. And I can't imagine, like, anytime that I get free time. In fact, you know, I'm always on dating apps and stuff like that, especially like when I'm traveling. I'm always excited to meet new girls and this and that. And like one of the first questions I always ask is like, if you have nothing to do for the day, there's nothing on the schedule, you have all the time in the world for the day, what do you do? And if it's not something active, I'm over it.
What's the most common answer you get there?
Sometimes it'll be like, I just like to go to the beach and hang out, or I go shopping, and I'm like, both of those are a no.
Yeah.
But if it's like, hey, I like to go for a hike, I like to, you know, go do something, whatever. Like, I can appreciate sitting on the beach, but it's like, I'm on the beach, like, stressed out. Like, what could I do in the water? You know what I mean? Like, I can go surfing right now. I could do this. I could do that.
When I'm away with my partner, like she quite likes to have her downtime and relax. And I'm like, all right, I'll do 5 minutes on the sun. I'm like, what can we do now?
What else can I do?
Just relax a little bit. But I think like what you're describing there, I think this is a really good segue. What you're describing there, when you're looking at dating, right? When you're looking for a partner that is into hiking, is into activity, you're not looking just because you want to go for a walk. You're looking because that trait says so much more about a person than anything else can, right? Like you see somebody who's in great shape, there's automatically so many traits of that person you know. They're committed, they're disciplined, they're hardworking. There's that statistic which is wild. It's like 8.8% of Americans are millionaires, but only 2 to 5% can see visible abs. So having visible abs is harder statistically than being a millionaire. Right? So people look at millionaires like that's the pinnacle, like, damn, you must have your shit together. And they look at people with six packs and think, oh, you're too obsessive or you care too much. But the traits you get from having a visible six pack, for instance, or just visible abs, the traits are crazy. I'm sure you'll probably agree.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like I think there's another quote where it's like the definition of happiness is giving up what you want most for what you want now is actually like a definition of happiness. And I would add another layer to that and say that like the definition of happiness is the amount of sharing that you can do with other people.
It's powerful.
So like that's my definition. Yeah. So I would take that on top of it and then just say like, you know, you give up what you want most for what you want now. So basically you're doing something that's making you unhappy in the short term so you can be happy in the long term. Absolutely. But then I would say on top of that, once you get there, if you have no one to share it with, you're kind of screwed.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so for me, it's always like, yeah, I want all these goals to happen and I want all these things to happen in my life. I have this trajectory, I have this path. But at the end of the day, if I don't have anybody to share it with and they don't want to go hiking with me, they don't want to do these things that I'm looking for, and you're going to give me the answer that's the opposite, then it doesn't matter who you are, how attractive you are, you know, how fit you are, any of these things. You're just not the right person. And
I mean, on that, how much more do you have to share when you're fit? Like you have so, like I say to a lot of people, you can't pour from an empty cup. So something I think is if you're selfless, I think that's selfish a lot of the times. Because if you can't pour into yourself, there will be a brick wall you run into and you can't fucking pour into anyone else. Mm-hmm. You want to be the best parent, be the best person you can and go to the gym and work out. So then you can lead healthy habits and you can be a role model and you can show it's cool to be confident. Because I think there's so many parents, there's so many people of an older age that aren't active. And straight away, those unhealthy habits pass to the children, right? So what you're saying there in regards to being that type of person that does go out and be active, all you're doing is pouring your cup. So if you then want to give more to other people, you have so much more to give, right? And I think that's where people are short-sighted. They see fitness as apps. They don't see fitness as how can I use this to better somebody else's life, right?
You can add another layer to that, and I love this quote right here. I don't know who it's from, but it just like it's resonated with me for such a long time, and it's a really strong point that I like to give to a lot of my clients: is you will never be fully present until you're proud of your presence.
Presence, yes, absolutely.
I don't know where that came from, but I'm just like, oh man, like when you wake up and you don't like what you see, like you're in trouble, man. Like you need to start working on personal development. Personal development is so many things. It could be nutrition, it could be training, it could be you know, your job. It could be the things that you wake up for. Like I always tell everyone, the number one thing that everyone should do in every part of their life, whether it's your business, whether it's your personal life, whether it's your relationship, every single thing should have its own definition of a mission, values, non-negotiables.
Yes.
Those are the three things. Like those are the three pillars you have to have. Absolutely. Like a mission like your business can't go anywhere without a mission, without values. You know, you have to have the values to bring the right people in. You know what I mean? You have to have the mission to drive things when you don't feel like doing the thing. Accountability is the number one thing, right? But like, who's going to be there when no one else is there to hold your hand.
And it's almost like that self-reminder as well. You set your mission and your values. Sometimes, like, we're human. We have days that we're off track, or days that we just can't be fucked, right? So having that mission, and I suppose this kind of ties into a nice segue of your why. You know, like when we're working with new members, one thing we would always ask is, why do you want to achieve said goal? They tell us, okay, but why? So let's say, for instance, right, I want to lose 10 pounds. I might go, okay, why? I go, oh, you know, I just don't feel great. Okay, so why is it important to feel great? Well, I suppose if I feel great, I might find a partner. Got it. Why do you want to find a partner? Well, feel a bit lonely. Okay, so is it valuable for you to go and find a partner so you feel, you know, full? Yeah, then I maybe like to have children. Okay, great. So how much more powerful is it that you want to find a partner, be confident, you know, don't feel lonely anymore and have children over, I just want to lose 10 pounds, right? So when we look at goal setting, where do you start? Because I'm sure your goals, I know you got like the bigger picture that's always the main thing's the main thing, right? But how do you goal set to make it bulletproof?
I mean, goal setting is always going to change.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to have these goals that are actually achievable, because the thing that ruins everybody is they just set a huge, massive goal and they just forget about the small ones.
Absolutely.
And as soon as you do that, you really set yourself up for failure, because it's so hard. Like, the biggest thing that we do wrong is we let ourselves down a lot.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like, we all let ourselves down way, way too much. And we never like actually make ourselves proud enough. So if you can give yourself those small goals, it really is about making yourself proud. And at the end of the day, like, why do you want to lose the 10 pounds? To feel better in your own skin.
Absolutely.
So that you can actually talk to the girl that you really want to talk to. So you want to make yourself proud first so that you can actually pour into somebody else's cup to begin with.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think your body is like the most honest reflection of your choices.
Oh, dude. Absolutely. I done a tweet that went pretty viral, and it said, a fit person in a plain white 5-pound t-shirt looks so much better than an unfit person wearing a 400-pound t-shirt. I think you've done a similar one. And it's like, dude, like, it speaks volumes, right? And I think it might have been yourself I saw it from. It's like when you put that into perspective, it's like everything changes when you look at someone and go, wow, he takes care of himself. You know, he's got self-respect, he's got commitment.
Self-respect.
Right? And I think it's also when you build trust with yourself, and it's sticking to your own word, right? If I, you know, promise myself that I'm not going to hit the snooze alarm in the morning, then I hit that snooze alarm and I've already broken a promise to myself. So if I can't keep my word to myself, how am I going to keep it to someone else? You know, if I can't trust myself, how can I trust someone else, or how can someone else trust me? And that's where, and I think, again, like you say, it all stems from yourself. Now, for people that are going, right, that sounds great. You know, I know it stems from me, and I understand why that's so important now, right? How does somebody now go, I need to increase my motivation to get there? So like, we could look at environment. It could be like physical presence. It could be getting in communities. It could be traveling to places like Dubai to be in a different environment. Like, what's your advice for somebody who's thinking, I want to be surrounded by people that can uplift me. I don't know where to go.
You can definitely start with going to the gym, or you can start with going on like a Facebook group where you're getting motivation from other people who are like doing these things relatively similar to you. Yeah. You can start following the right people on social media. That helps a ton. Yeah. You can read books, which helps a lot. But to be fair, like, at the end of the day, I think you need to be in some sort of a community where you're meeting in person. I think that's like the biggest life-changing event that you can do, is just meet someone in person. Like, you and I could talk on Instagram or whatever back and forth and share information that like changes our lives. You know, like, I could give you something that's just such a great piece of information. You can give me the same thing, but it changes like unsurmountably once I meet you in person and I'm like, oh, this guy's like just like me. Like, I think at the end of the day, you know, we look up to people that we want their life, like we want their body, we want their mindset, whatever it is. And we feel like it's so far out of reach until you meet them. And then you're just like, oh, wow. Like, they're so similar to me. Like, this is crazy. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think, you know, we're all limited by like our own beliefs. 100%. And those beliefs will only be broken when you meet the person. It will not be broken with words. It will not be broken with a reel on Instagram. It will only be broken by meeting the person and having that relatability. And that's also the biggest reason why I think everyone should find purpose in life and run towards that with every single ounce of your soul. Because as soon as you do that, you're going to open up that same door for somebody else.
100%. I had that exact experience. When I was 21, I really wanted to be surrounded by a bigger environment and bigger people and people that are going to push me. But I was like, shit, I don't know where to find this thing. And I came across my first mentor, Vince. And he had this thing where it's like an in-person event in Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. At this point, I haven't really left the country. Like, I only really know London. I only know England. So I remember going to my partner. I'm going Nashville. what the fuck are you talking about? You going to Nashville? I went, I'm going Nashville. There's this fitness event. I'm going. She was like, all right, yeah, I bet you are. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go. Like, I want to do this thing, but if I want to do this thing, I need to put myself in an uncomfortable position. So I remember I booked this flight, and I've never been on a plane by myself either. So I was a bit nervous in the airport.
Oh, wow. This is like
full. This is like, I nearly missed my flight as well. It was awful. But I was like, where do I go? But anyway, I got to Nashville and I went to this event. My God, my life changed. And at the end of the event, Vince, the mentor, he kind of said, look, we got this thing going on. If you want to join our program, 15,000, and here's the paper. I did not have 15,000. I was like, do you do payment plans? He's like, yes. I was like, right, I'm in. I don't have it, but I'm going to do the first installment. I got the first installment. That's all I've got, but I will make this thing work. And I will find a way between now and the next installment to be able to keep it going. I went home and my life changed forever.
I love
just
that.
Being in a room full of people who think huge. And there were some of the amazing speakers. You probably know a lot of them, like, you know, Wes Watson, Rudy Moya, Frank, and so forth. And just hearing them talk, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much more I can do. And it's the same in fitness communities. You know, I'm a coach and I've had a coach and I always will. Because being held accountable, having someone in your corner holding to your highest standard, like, there is nothing more valuable. And I think I've heard on a podcast with yourself, you had a similar experience in regards to the first time, like, you met someone in your life that kind of helped you think bigger. So what was that for you?
I have a few. So each one has massive, massive impact on me. And the first one would probably be my business partner that I have in my gym. He made MySpace.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a big baller. So
Jesus Christ.
He made MySpace and he just gave me more than money or more than goals or anything like that. He gave me like this utter belief that like I was the person to do this thing. And that was huge.
Absolutely.
And then I would say the next big person would be Alex Hormozy. I met Alex when he literally had just a few thousand on Instagram. A few thousand. Now he has a few million.
Yeah.
And he's like mega famous now. And at the time, I just asked him to be on my podcast. And he literally was like, yeah, dude, like, come on down to Texas. And, you know, here's my address. Like, texted me his address. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. And then I like went there and we wound up like, I was supposed to be there for the day and I hung out there for like 4 days and we wound up like becoming friends and like all these different things. And yeah, man, like I think putting yourself in these uncomfortable scenarios, like you're saying, is like really the key to the whole thing. And then when you meet these people, it just like, I remember telling Alex like how much money my company was making and like, you know, what I was doing and stuff like that. And he just was like, oh dude, like that's great. But like you have so much more you could do. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't even know anyone who's doing better than this, you know? And he's just like, oh dude, there's like way more. And I was like, oh my God, like it exploded everything. And honestly, there's really no extra skill that was learned from that day.
Yeah.
But I like 4x'd my company in the next like 6 months, literally just because I just knew that it was possible because I just didn't know.
Yeah.
So like, I wish so much I could trade places with you and have gone to that event when I was 21. Like I didn't start any of this stuff until I was like 28.
Yeah.
I started a gym first, which is a terrible idea. And then I don't think I made any money until I was like 30 or 31.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah. Like enough money to like go travel and like go like live, you know?
I mean, I think I was very lucky because like you said, I think the main thing is exposure. When you're exposed to a new behavior or a new lifestyle, you can't undo it. You can't unsee it. And going back to your old lifestyle seems near impossible. So like when you're exposed to new levels of fitness, new levels of mindset, new levels of friendship groups, it's like, that's the standard, right? Anything where I was is no longer the standard. And I was exposed to it quite young because I remember doing a gym apprenticeship. I wanted a personal training qualification. I was 16, I believe, at the time, and I couldn't afford it. It was like £3,000. I was like, no chance. So I'd done an apprenticeship, which is a 2-year course you learn on the job. So I went into this gym, and the owners of the gym were students of Grant Cardone at the time. And they were super smart, so smart. The owner, his name was Josh Amet. He was a Shaolin monk, and he had so much wisdom. And Rochelle, she was a pure businesswoman. So I had like I kind of saw them as my first mentors. And I was earning £3.20 an hour to clean toilets and take legs, bumps and tums. And at the time, my friends were like working at Nando's or the local restaurants and they were earning like £8-9 an hour. And they were like going out for food and getting takeaways. I was like, wow, that looks so cool. But I'm cleaning toilets for £3.20 an hour. But I was quite lucky because they always showed me the bigger picture. And I learned so much just from being in their company. They didn't have to say a word to me. They could just be doing their thing. But just being around their company just helped me see so much bigger. so much bigger. And that for me was like that click. It just takes one person or one environment, one coaching community, for one person to post in that coaching community and go, bam, this is how I feel and this is what I've done. That one post can change your life. And I don't think people realize how easy it is to change your life when you're exposed to new people, new behaviors, right?
I mean, one of the biggest risks is believing in somebody.
Absolutely.
I mean, first, you got to believe in yourself. Second, you got to believe in somebody else. And I remember asking, like, I was doing these interviews one time. I was like, hey, have you ever been fat before? Like, that's what I was like asking people. It's like a big polarizing question. And a lot of times I'd be like, well, when did you notice you were fat? And then when did you notice, or when did you notice that you needed to make a change and this and that? Yeah. And a lot of times people are just like, man, I saw it in the mirror at some point in time. I saw it in a photo. Like I saw it here, I saw it there. And then all of a sudden, like, I just like saw an ad on Instagram or I saw an ad on Facebook or whatever. And like, that was when I decided to jump all in and like do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, a lot of us, as soon as you feel like everything is comfortable in your life, I'm a huge fan of just changing it.
Absolutely.
It doesn't even matter how good you're doing. It's
Absolutely.
like if you're completely comfortable in every single aspect, like you love where you're like everything's perfect where you live and like your job is great and like all these different things, but you like yearn for growth.
Yeah.
You have to just move, or you have to change something, or you have to, do that thing that you just been in the back of your mind for a really, really long time. And I swear to God, as soon as you do that thing,
changes. Yeah.
You will just be alive, whether you win or lose. It will just be the thing.
Absolutely.
That gives you the driving force to like have more purpose. Because at the end of the day, like we could have more money, we could have more of this, we could have more of that. But like if you don't have purpose behind it, it's all fucked.
Absolutely. And the way I see it is you can't lose. Like the way I see failure, right, is people go, I don't want to do this in case I fail. What if? But then I see it one of two ways. Number one, if you don't do it, you're guaranteed to fail. And number two, if you do fail, you learn a lesson that you didn't have prior. So you can't fail. Like for me anyway, this is maybe something I've told myself, but it works for me, right? I think if I do something and I fail, then I've got new experiences and new lessons that I take into the next thing, which means I didn't lose, I learned. And knowledge is so powerful, right? When you know how to do something, when you know your own limitations, you're thinking, shit, maybe I don't have any. Maybe I don't have limitations. Maybe I can run through brick fucking walls. And if I get a broken nose, I learn not to do it again and I'll try something new, right? And I think that learning from experience and not being afraid to fail is easier said than done. But as soon as you understand that on the other side of failure is growth, it becomes like almost a no-brainer decision, I think.
Well, I remember when I really wanted to like invest in a coach at some point in time, which to be fair, I've never actually invested in a coach. I've figured it out.
I think that's wild how you've done what you have. And that's credit to you.
I figured out everything on my own. But when I was telling Alex this, like as a flex kind of, I was like, oh yeah, I like did it all on my own and stuff like that. And he's just like, why are you so nervous? And I was like, well, dude, what if the guy's a ripoff and like it's, and I get ripped off? And he's just like, what if you find out that what he has is such shit that you think that you could do it better and then you sell it? And I'm
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
he's like, there's no such thing as a bad investment. And I was like, I have never thought about that.
Absolutely.
And then Layla, his wife, I was always like talking about how like it was hard to find good employees and this and that. Well, like, what if I invest in them and they leave? And she was like, what if you don't invest in them and they stay?
Dude, you told me that at coffee yesterday and my mind blown.
And I was like, oh.
That is such a... That, you say you be in someone's company, you take a small nugget. When you said that to me at the coffee shop yesterday, I was like, wow. Like, I've always been a big believer in investing into employees anyway, but just from that perspective, what if you don't and they stay? I was like, oh my God, like, it's something that but when you put it into perspective, it's like, wow, like that is such a good way to put it.
Dude, every person who's more successful than you, they're all going to tell you the exact same thing. And you could actually take this for personal life as well, relationships, like just your business, everything. Is like you are one hard conversation away from like a massive breakthrough. Or massive growth. Like,
absolutely.
We all know there's a person that's holding us back. We all know that there's a place that's holding us back. We all know that there's a habit that's holding us back. We all know that there's something that needs to change. But for us to make that change, it's very uncomfortable. Absolutely. And it could be a conversation with a person or it could be a conversation with ourselves. Yeah. But you are one hard conversation away from making some massive impact.
Absolutely.
And I think that you could just sit back, take inventory on your life and just figure out what the fuck that thing is. And like this week, like have that conversation.
Absolutely. And sometimes that conversation is with the mirror.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it's with someone, but sometimes it's that hard conversation in the mirror to go, right, the fellas at work poking me in the stomach saying, oh, are you pregnant? It's too much now. Like it's time for me to grab my bootstraps and make a fucking change, right? Because I think sometimes we look externally for motivation, which I think is really important. But I think sometimes we also need to look internally, right? And find the motivation from within to go, well, shit, if I look in the mirror and my roles hang over my belt and that don't make me feel good, well, there's only one person that can make a change. Whether I work for a coach, I look at free stuff online, or I just go for an extra walk today. There's only one person that's going to make a change, and that's me. And I think the mistake that people make is they wait for trauma to make change. So when they experience the trauma, whether that's mild heart attack, whether that's the people at the office poking the sun, it's going, fucking, you put on a bit of, like, I think they wait for that moment and go, maybe now I need to change. Where if they actually go, right, maybe I can make that lifestyle early, prevent that from ever happening, and kind of see the full potential I have within myself way earlier. Well, shit, like it blows my mind why people don't do that, right? I know it's scary, but on the other side of that is just a brand new person. And you almost feel like, right, this is my second life and I'm born again, right?
I like the rock bottom approach. So like, I like when someone's poking you and all of that stuff, or I like when like you lose all your money, or you put all your money down for the fitness, coaching program or whatever it is. Like, I think the back against the wall mentality is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself when it comes to doing something that you think might not be possible. Yes. If you think it's kind of possible and you don't have everything on the line, it's very, very hard for you to like go 100% all in.
Agreed.
And the biggest game for everything that we want to do, like whenever we're like a little bit unsure if you can do the thing, it's because you're like 90% on the thing. Yeah. Whether it's a spouse, like a significant other, whether it's a business, whether it's, deciding to change your body. A lot of people like self-sabotage themselves. They get halfway to their goal and they go backwards. If there's anything in your life that you've ever gone 100% in on, not 96, not 97, not 98, like you go 100% in on it, has it ever not worked out?
I could not tell you a single time.
And if it doesn't, it's because you were 97, 98, 99, even 99.9% in.
Yeah.
You have to say, I'm going to fucking make it work. And as soon as you do that, everything will change. And it's just
absolutely
the biggest thing that holds people back is they just don't go 100% in.
Absolutely. And I think with that as well, people need to manage expectations too. I think it's so important to go 100% in. I think the only small thing that people sometimes do is go 100% in, have a small blip. It could just be they're out with some friends, or maybe they're under the weather and get back to it's hard. Right. And I think if people can go 100% in and have a proactive, not a reactive mindset, if a blip comes into their lifestyle, that person is unfucking stoppable in every realm of their life. If they have a small blip, they're proactive, not reactive, they get back on the ball and they control their controllables after going 100%, that person cannot be stopped no matter what the fuck they're doing. And I think that's such a powerful trait to have that people do not pursue enough.
What I think is crazy, if you just go on Google and you type in like how much of the population is average, like mediocre, they just live a super average life. It's 90%. So 9 out of 10 people, when you walk outside, 9 out of 10 of them, there's no sparkle behind their eyes. There's no purpose. There's no nothing that drives them each and every day. There's nothing that excites them.
Christ.
They go to their job, they go home, they watch Netflix, they do whatever it is, and they live their life, and they think it's great. Or they think that like this is life in general. And I think it's crazy to think that if that's 90%, the only thing that keeps you out of that top 10% is the fact that you just haven't decided that you want to drive all of your energy towards a thing.
Yes.
That's it. It's just that. You're just deciding to do the thing. Let's say I sign up for your fitness program. I'm like, cool. I sign up for the program. I'm already in the top 10% because I made a decision to do something.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to be a really bad motherfucker, all I have to do is stay consistent. And if I can stay consistent, I'm in the top 1%.
Absolutely.
And then you got to understand that like all these people, you're just like, wow, this person's like a complete freak of this thing. They're in the top 1% of the 1%, but like it's so much easier to get there than you actually think.
Absolutely.
It's actually crazy. It's like, you got to understand, like, if you just decide you're in the top 10, and if you just stay consistent, you're in the top 1. And I'm not making these numbers up. These are real numbers. And if you understand that like you're built in this life to stand out, not to blend in, like you're built to make different decisions. You should have the kind of discipline that makes other people uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Like if every single thing that you do every single day, no one questions it ever, you're doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
If you want to do it right, like make people uncomfortable. Why are you ordering that?
Yeah.
Why are you going to the gym at 5 a.m.? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like, I'm doing this because I fucking care about myself and I want to be in the top fucking 1%.
Absolutely.
Imagine how that person feels after you say that. They're not going to say anything negative because nobody doing more than you is ever going to have anything negative to say. It's always someone doing less.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's having the courage to do that as well, knowing that other people will think you're fucking weird. Because it's weird being in the 1%, right? You know, you're 1 out of 100. You're 1 out of 99. So
I love it.
One thing for me that I love it too. One thing for me that I always found is every time I made a big step, the people closest to me who cared the most would usually be the ones to ask the questions of, oh, should you do that? Like I remember I went self-employed at just before I turned 18. And that's when I started, I had a conversation with my second mentor. Ajit was just the owner of a different gym. He had like a convenience store within like the airport. So it was mega. And we was having a conversation. He said like, why don't you go self-employed, pay the rent and do your personal training? I was like, well, shit, what if I don't make it work, Ajit? I was like, yeah, what if I don't get the clients? He goes, what's the worst? You tell me the worst case scenario. You don't make that work. What's the absolute worst thing what happened? I went, oh, I guess I'll pick up some more shifts and carry on. He goes, is that bad? And I went, well, shit, it's not as bad as maybe I thought. And even people around me at that time went, oh, are you sure you want to do that now? Like, what if you can't make it work? When I went from personal training to online coaching, are you sure? Like, they don't see you. What do you mean online? Like, shouldn't you continue doing the PT? And then when I hired coaches under me, it's like, but don't they want to see you? And every time it's the closest people that really mean the absolute most. And sometimes it is a case, I've got to take the risk anyway. What's the worst that can happen? If it goes to shit, well, shit, I start again. And I think if you can be comfortable enough to go all in, and at the worst case, the best case, worst case scenario. Best case, I make this shit work. Worst case, I go back to the drawing board and I start again. But I can sleep well at night knowing I gave it my best try. And I think that's the most important thing.
I 100% agree. I think most people just got to take more shots on goal.
Absolutely. And if you miss the target, you take another shot, you know?
I mean, everybody talks about failing as like part of the process.
Yeah.
But the hard part is most of the people who are hearing that are already failing and they don't want to hear that they need to fail more.
Yeah.
Because it's not very motivating.
Absolutely.
But sometimes when you fuck your shit up, it shows you what you need to do to actually get to where you want to be. So like a lot of times, like I would launch fitness products, like challenges and stuff like that. I genuinely thought they were terrible. But like in terms of the time frame, I had to launch it because I was like, all right, dude, I said I was going to launch it this time. It's not everything I want it to be. I was like so stressed out and it crushed. And then I was like, you know what? When I do the next launch, it's going to be so much better. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And it would flop.
Yeah.
And I started to find out that like the thing that people really wanted was really just to be committed to something.
Yes.
That's really all it is. Like, dude, everybody just lacks commitment.
Absolutely.
That's really all it is.
Yeah,
it's just commitment. Like if you're thinking about something and you've been thinking about it for a long time, just do the fucking thing because it's going to be way worse if you don't try.
We could not have said it better myself. And I remember when I first hosted my fitness event, my in-person client events, and I was such a big believer of in-person events because how they changed my life. And I remember the first one I'd done, I think 7 people showed up. 1 was my mom, 1 was my brother, 1 was my partner. So like 5 people turned up, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. Like no one wants to come. And
that is my nightmare.
It was horrible. But it was my first one I ever done. It was fairly short notice. And it came down to I kind of committed to myself every 12 to 6 weeks, I'm going to do this thing. Like I'm going to do it no matter what. Rolled around the next time to host another event. I was like, oh my God, what if no one shows up? I was so scared. I was so nervous. I thought, I've made a commitment. Like I've not only told my clients this is something we're going to do every 12 to 16 weeks, I made that commitment to myself. So it's like, shit, I got to get it done anyway. I done it and okay, it's like 17 people showed up. 3 of them was again family members. I thought, okay, we're
17
moving,
though.
17, yeah. So I was like, okay, cool, we're moving in the right direction. Then the next one, it was like 27 showed up. I was like, damn, we're picking up some steam. And if I didn't have the courage to go, oh shit, maybe like total of 7, but a total of 8 or whatever it was, and 5 of them were actually clients showed up the first time and it got better. If I didn't make the decision to do the second event regardless, maybe I'll never do them again. And I know client events have completely transformed and changed our clients' lives as well because they've been in new friendship circles. I've had clients who are now in relationships, like full commitment relationships from meeting each other at client events. And like that to me is wild because if I made a decision to not go all in on number 2 because I was scared about event number 1, those relationships wouldn't have formed, lives wouldn't have been changed, my life wouldn't be changed because me hosting them, shit, I'm buzzed. Like I see these guys as like our community is everything. Like I come away from them like, damn, like I want to go run a marathon. I feel like I've got energy for days. And I think when you're in the room with the people, you breathe off each other's energy. And like you say, you got to have the courage to go and do it. And if it doesn't go great, well, shit, you take another shot.
I think the future is in-person everything. Like, I feel like right now we're going to be really looking forward to some human connection because we're in the world of AI.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
And I think AI is great. I think it's going to be good for a lot of
course.
things, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to really pull us away from like that real connection.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for it, to be honest, because it's
Yeah.
been the one thing for me that's made the biggest changes. Like even just coming out here and meeting you guys has been great. But it's so much different when you're not in person.
Oh, dude, I think you hit the nail on the head with the world of AI, because I'm quite a nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. I just find it interesting. It's just a cool thing.
Yeah.
And I think people worried AI is going to take over. It's like you cannot replace human connection. You can't. And I grew up as a huge introvert. Like I'd go around my partner's families and I'd go bright red. I'm nervous, but human interaction made me comfortable in people's scenarios, and that changed my life. So like I can't see AI replacing human interaction ever. Like it's wild to me. We're meant and we're built to be in each other's company. It's how humans are meant to be, and it stems right back from the fucking animal kingdom, right? Like it blows my mind. And I think that's a good point. I think that's a really powerful point about in person and about community. I think, is there any other things that you have done from a perspective of taking risk or a perspective of finding and seeking motivation that could be tangible for viewers to take away and go, let me try that thing I heard Ryan say on a podcast that may change their life within the next couple of weeks?
I think the number one thing that just makes just such a big difference in people's lives is just like a company makes a mission and values, is to just make your own. Yeah. I think you called it a why a little bit earlier. I think a why is part of it, but like, what do you want your life to ultimately become? Like, what is the short-term goal right now? Like, what is the mission of your life? And then what are the values that you need to set into place right now to become that person or to actually get to that goal? Like, for example, if your goal right now is to like be fit for your kids, for your partner, for the wedding that you have coming up, like in the next 3 months, you want to get in the best shape possible. Start becoming the person who is in shape. What is that person putting in their grocery cart? If you go to the grocery store and you look in your cart, is the person who's fit, does that person have the same stuff in the cart that you have right now?
Yeah.
Is that person, pull out your phone and look at how many steps you have. Like, how many steps does the person who's fit walk? If you have 1,000 steps for the day, you're not that person. And it's totally fine. And I think sometimes we get lost and we get confused and we're not really sure what to do. And we need help and we need this and we need that. And I think one of the best things and most valuable things that you can do for yourself is to just literally just clone yourself. Step in front of yourself, look yourself in the eye, and what would you tell yourself to do?
100%.
And if you can't do that, think about the inverted thing. What would I do to absolutely destroy my journey? Would I go out drinking to the bar? That really holds in line with my goals, right? Would I eat a bunch of stupid food? Would I not get good sleep? Would I not do this? Would I not do that? Inverted thinking is something that works very, 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 very well. But then also taking inventory on yourself and being like, what would I tell myself to do to get closer to my goals? But you can't do any of this unless you make the mission and you make the values. And then when you have all that, what are your non-negotiables to get there? Will I always sleep? Like, will I always get 8 hours of sleep? Will I always choose the right things at the grocery store? Will I always get 60 minutes of activity in every single day, whether it's walking, going to the gym, whatever it is? When you have those things, those are the things that keep you accountable when nobody's around. And that's the most important thing, is you need to always have the mission and the values in the back of your mind. Like, one of the things that I tell everybody to do, and I have it on my phone right now, is whatever's really important to me, I make a note on my notepad and I screenshot it.
Awesome.
What does that say right now?
Don't forget what you did to get here. Powerful.
So I did some bad shit in my life, and I had to overcome community service and doing a lot of things. And I always like to remember to myself, like, whenever things are like really hard, and I'm like, man, you got all this stuff to do. Like, it's gonna take you this long to get this done, or like, just life's hard. I look at my phone because that's like the one thing we look at all the time, and I'm like, dude, don't forget what you did to get here. Like,
absolutely. And I think what you're saying here, what people listening should understand is success leaves clues, right? And what I think you're referring to here is awareness. Being aware of the person you want to become and being aware of the identity shifts you need to make to become that person.
Identity shift.
So you just showed me your phone. Every time you open it, you see something that motivates you. And I would like to think that people listening probably would see that we're quite ambitious and motivated. So if you want to become that person, I have the same shit on my phone, right? So like on mine, it's our smart body.
You're the first person I've seen who did that.
Yeah. So like,
fuck yeah.
For me, every time I open my phone, I see my 10 values. So these are like our company Smart Bonding performance values, but they're my values too. So it's put members first every time. We're on offense all the time. Always think bigger picture. Adaptability, because our business is always changing. Always be a student. To keep balance, keep moving. Fail fast, fail forward. Work in your area of genius. Don't be a fish trying to climb a tree. Innovation. The point isn't to know, it's to understand and do the right things and make growth automatic.
Dude, I'm so pumped that you have that. I've never seen anybody else do that, so that's fucking sick. And I did not know that he had that on his phone, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you ripped up your phone, I'm like, damn, like success leaves clues, right? If you want to be motivated, look what motivated people are doing and do the same shit. So if you're watching this podcast and you think, right, I would love to have that energy that I feel like Ryan and Reese had on that podcast, what do they do? Well, they work out. They have reminders on their phone, right on their screensaver. So every time they open their phone, they're aware of what they want to achieve. Well, maybe I'll start there. Mm-hmm. And then that will then help you get a couple of % better. You feel a little bit better and you go, well, shit, the first two things worked. I feel better. Well, they also spoke about going for more hikes or walks. Right, let me add that in. Well, shit, now I'm even better. Now they just keep adding these small little things into their day because it can be overwhelming, right? Sometimes people see everything and go, well, shit, this is a bit scary. Like there's so much going on. Great. Break it down. Like we have clients who go, right, I want to lose 50 pounds. And I go, right, do you mind if we reframe for a moment? Absolutely. The goal isn't to lose 50 pounds. It's to lose 1 pound 50 times. Straight away, that's not intimidating. I can lose a pound. That's not too bad. Lose 1 pound. Great. Let's do the same thing again. I can lose 1 more pound. Same thing again. All of a sudden you go, fucking hell, 50 pounds down. Shit. Mm-hmm. I need to get a new wardrobe, right? We said it's the only downside. When you join the program, you need to buy a new wardrobe. But like you say, I think the awareness is so important. So if we was to put like a tier, right? We've got awareness is one of the most important things that someone can have. What other traits like awareness do you think is really important for somebody to have that's going to help them completely transform their life?
In what way?
So like if we have like awareness, identity shift, accountability externally. So with a coach, friend, or event, right? Is there anything along those lines that you think is important to have that somebody can have in place and go, bam, like I'm ready to transform?
I mean, I think everything that you just laid out is exactly what you need.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that's why I was kind of like, I'm not really sure here. I'm like, once you have the identity shift and you start becoming the person that you want to become, that's when everything really changes. So for me, I think I'll talk about like an inverted thinking. Okay. What would you do to ruin everything? So for me, oddly enough, I found success in like just the craziest way. Like everyone looks at, how I built Chalk Performance Training, how I built my whole business, and they're like, dude, how did you do all these things? And I'm just like, dude, I really just like figured it out on my own. I failed a whole bunch and just figured it out and never had a mentor, any of these things. But it wasn't until recently where like I was hiring all these people to like build my website and, to do this and do that. People would always have all these questions of like, oh, well, what kind of images do you want here? And then like, what kind of messaging do you want? And like all these things. And it's crazy because I literally had gone 10 years of owning my gym and owning my online business. That was crushing it.
Yeah.
And I never had a mission or values. Never.
Interesting.
And I cannot tell you how much more it changed everything when I made a mission and values. But it took me actually like almost 2 years to figure out. Like I knew for a while that I needed to make these things, but I didn't understand how important they were. Yeah. And it is even for hiring people. I was hiring the wrong people all the time, and I didn't know why.
Absolutely.
And it's because they didn't have anything to believe in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So your family will believe in you more when you make these missions and values, when you make these identity shifts. Your friends will believe in you more. They will want to be more like you. I never forget. So there's two things. When I made the mission and values, it made my content easier. It made the pages that I built for my website easier. It made the messaging easier. It made the workouts easier. It made the trigger points for people to actually, buy into my program. Not in a salesy way, but like this is what needs to be said for you to be like, oh, that's what I need.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then on top of that, it changed so many things. I literally, it's hard to even fathom. And to think that I had ever made it that far without that. And even in my own personal life, I needed to understand what my mission and values were, what my non-negotiables were, so I could coach other people to let them understand, why am I this way?
Yes.
And why are you that way?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the way you think about every single thing. And I think, if you have all those things in place, like what else is missing? Like it's kind of what your main question was. And I think that you just need somebody who believes in you equally as much as you do. They just need to support you in some way. It could be a friend. It could be a significant other. It could be a client. Absolutely. Dude, I had I started Chalk Online because of a client. A client inside my gym would drop in every like 3 months for work. And this lady literally was like, Ryan, you should put your workouts online. You should put them online. And I was like, what if nobody buys them? Yeah. And she's like, what if? Who gives a fuck? It's online. You already have the gym. You know? She went and made my Facebook group. Wow. To this day, this lady can go in and delete my whole Facebook group because she's the owner of the group. I haven't talked to her in years. You know what's crazy? She's actually like really big in like the Republican Party for America. Like she wound up becoming ultra mega famous. Like insane. I can't even say who it is because it'd be like crazy.
That must feel quite nice knowing someone of that caliber saw something in you. Because if she's fucking high up in politics, she probably got something that's significant. So if she saw that within you, that must make you feel, shit, maybe I have something bubbling inside that's fucking powerful that I need to show the world, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that I almost forgot it, but I had gone to this big event, big fitness event. There was thousands and thousands of people there. And the speaker was talking about how he's like, man, I've been walking around all day and I keep hearing this thing over and over and over again. I wish it was like this where I lived. Like, I wish I had people like this where I am. It's like, it's so motivating here. It's so inspiring here. And he's like, every single one of you guys can have this if you just become the person who inspires and motivates other people and you spread the message. Just like someone would spread a message of like Christianity or something like that in religion. Yeah. You could be like, hey, maybe you should make some better nutrition choices. I remember you saying you wanted to get into shape. Like, you don't have to say it in a negative way. Or like, hey, do you want to go to the gym with me? Versus like, do you want to go to the bar? Like, do you want to do 30 days sober with me? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? It just takes one small thing to change somebody else's life, and then that person gets excited to change somebody else's life. It's very, very similar to religion as well. And once you start to make that community around you, like imagine all the people that you've changed. Imagine if they all lived here in Dubai. You'd have one hell of a gang of dope-ass people to hang out with.
For sure.
We could all create that in our own community if you just fucking be the person who leads instead of follows. Like, we are meant to stand out. We're not meant to blend in. You should be making different decisions every single day to get different results. You should make uncommon decisions every single day to get uncommon results.
Absolutely.
And like, that is what the whole thing is about. Make other motherfuckers uncomfortable with how badass you are.
Dude, that is so good. And like, you don't know, something to add to that as well, another layer. You don't know who's watching you and taking inspiration.
100%.
Like, when I was growing up, I got a younger brother and me and him are like identical now, right? But growing up, I wanted to be a professional footballer. I wanted to be an athlete. It was my everything. So I'd come home from school and I'm out on my field until it's pitch black and I'm still fucking running. And I didn't know that subconsciously my brother was watching absolutely everything I do. I was hoping so, but like at the time you don't think about it. You just think, all right, I'm going to do my thing, right? But my brother would watch every single step that I took. And it was my birthday in March. And he got me a big kind of sign. So he signed a professional football contract very recently. So he's professional. And he got...
Oh, wow. That's dope.
It's awesome. And he got me a shirt. And it's a picture of me and him when we went to the stadium to sign his contract. And that gets me goosebumps talking about it. At the bottom it said, "This is all thanks to you. Thank you for everything." And like, I get goosebumps. I'm just saying, the whole time I didn't think about it, but I didn't know who was watching and taking inspiration from the actions I was taking. And he got there on his own merits, absolutely. He works his socks off every fucking day and he don't become professional by accident. But to think that there's a potential small part to play that I maybe inspired him to make that extra 1%. Like, we've been thinking about 1% a lot. That extra 1% that could have helped him become 1% better. I can go to bed at night and sleep like a fucking baby because I've had a positive impact on someone so close. So I think for those listening, if you can't find the motivation within you, you can also find the motivation between those closest. Because if you want them to be great, damn, you got to be great yourself. And you lead by example, not by throwing affirmations. I think they're great, but you got to do the thing to motivate, not speak about the thing, right?
And it's a great place to start with just like making one simple different decision every day. It doesn't have to be like, my different decision is going to be like, I'm going to start being the person who becomes fit, like starting today.
For sure.
But it could just be like, instead of bringing a candy bar to work, I'm going to bring an apple.
Such a small thing.
That's a different decision. You know what I mean? And then those things start to stack. Like, there's actually a book right there, Atomic Habits. That's probably one of my favorite books of all time. Atomic Habits is...
Great book.
I think if there's any books, if you guys like book recommendations, I would say Atomic Habits is probably the #1 book that everybody should read.
Agreed. If you want to show your side, like,
yeah, this is the best book I read this book once a year. It's really, really good. I read this once a year, and there's another book called The Energy Bus. Have you ever seen that one?
That is John Gordon.
Yeah,
I heard him speak in Nashville. He's brilliant.
It's literally an hour and a half audiobook. You can go do it on a 10,000 step walk.
Dude.
And it is such a good story of a guy who just his energy he was putting out into the world it's just the way he showed up changed his life dramatically in so many different ways. And I think the habit stacking and atomic habits and understanding what you need to be doing every single day to start making different decisions and then having your why behind it. And then I think showing up the way that you would want someone else to show up in your life.
Yes.
Like there's nothing more contagious than being around somebody who's contagious. Like it's like the best feeling in the whole world. You're like, dude, I just love this person. He's so fucking dope.
Absolutely.
Or like this person really builds me up. And like sometimes they have no reason to build you up. Maybe their life's in shambles.
Absolutely.
And they're literally this radiating force. And we all have at least one person in our life like that.
Oh.
And imagine if you were that person for other people. Your life's not going to get worse.
No. I can't remember who. It must have been Bedros Keuilian. You build the bank account of goodwill. And there's nothing in the world that feels better than giving. And sometimes you give just with your energy that you don't even fucking realize. Mm-hmm. You give by being in someone's company and you just fucking, like you say, you just radiate, right? And sometimes we'll take away points from the book of Atomic Habits. The two main things in the book, because I agree, it's like one of my favorite books ever.
So good.
Habit cues and habit stacking. So to give you a tangible example, right? Let's say, for instance, you have the current habit of having a morning coffee. Every morning, you walk straight up to your coffee machine and you just do it like brushing your teeth. It's clockwork. Why don't you put a bottle of water? If your new habit is trying to be drinking water, put a bottle of water on that coffee machine. So you go to your normal habit of drinking more coffee and you set the visual cue of a new habit, which is drinking more water. So you're stacking a habit on top of the other. It might be putting your gym trainers and workout gear by your suit in the morning if that's what you wear to work. Leaving it on your car passenger seat. So when you get back into the car after your work, you see it on the passenger seat and you set a visual cue of, damn, I promised myself I was going to go to the gym today. It is so fucking powerful that it almost makes it harder to fail than it is to achieve the thing, right?
I just love the idea so much of just making different decisions. Like I turned it into my mission and values. Remember I told you it took me 2 years?
Yeah.
So my mission and values now is to build a community of people who are built different.
Nice.
And
awesome.
Being built different, I used to always think was like an aesthetic thing. You're like, oh, he's built different, like some crazy, jacked looking person or something like that. But it's like, no, what are the different decisions that that person makes every day that gets them different results in all aspects of life? Are they built different in terms of their choices, in terms of, their fitness life, like their business life? Like they live a different life than most. And I think that is what makes you built different. It's not an aesthetic thing. It's a 360 degree thing. And I think that I also added on top of that is uncommon decisions get uncommon results. So it's about making those different decisions and it's about being uncommon. And I think that most people deep down inside, they don't really want to follow. If 90% of the population is mediocre, such a painful word to hear that like 9 out of 10 people watching this right now, by definition, you're mediocre. I hate to tell you, but at the end of the day, it's because you don't really have any purpose. You don't have any driving force behind you that gets you out of bed in the morning to the point where you're just like, I'm going to go fucking kill this thing. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And I think that we all have it. We all want to do that thing, but you have to sit down, you have to figure out what you want, and you have to start making that path.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I get so passionate about it. Like, I just want everyone to have that why.
I think, and you can tell. Like, I feel like, I don't know if you're seeing, I feel like I've got a great bullshit detector. You can tell when someone means something from their heart. You can speak from the heart, you can speak from, I don't know, your fucking voice cords. Like, you can tell, right? And I think what you're referring to heavily comes down to clarity. When you have clarity of goal and why you want to achieve it, it's like a fucking sat nav, right? We're in Dubai. It's a fucking mission to get anywhere, right? Imagine trying to find this location you're in now from where you're staying.
I can't. It was terrible.
Yeah, exactly, right? And imagine trying to walk like this and you think, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to try and fucking find it.
Yeah.
You turn on that sat nav that goes turn left, turn right. You're probably still fucking in Dubai, get it wrong. It's a fucking nightmare. But it's your clarity and your purpose is your sat nav. So if you want to get to your destination, instead of just winging it, trying to get there, get clarity, get purpose, and that's your sat nav that will drive you right to the end result. And I think people need to find their sat nav when it comes to the transformation journey.
So of all the transformations that you've had, what's the most impactful one you've ever had? There's got to be one that stands out where you're just like, man, this person's life changed a shit ton. Because I have one that I was like, damn.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's, do you know what? The one that's going to stand out is going to be Mayank. And the reason I would say Mayank is we've had a lot of transformations where people have been able to run around their kids again, etc. But The reason I'm going to say Mayank is because he told me not too long ago, prior to starting his fitness journey with me, he was on the brink of committing suicide. He was like, he almost felt like it was days away. And he said he joined, at the time I was doing personal training, and he joined me and he's been a client for the last 7 years. He's never left. And at the time he joined as a personal trainer, he told me this more so recently, but the time he joined, he's like, I'm going to give this one last thing a shot. He saw me training somebody else in the gym. He was a member. And he said he didn't have, not necessarily the courage, but he didn't want to open up about it until recently. Now he really feels himself, and now he's inspiring other people with mental health. And he does like posts on his social media, but he said he was days away from committing suicide if he didn't do the program. And now he almost, fucking goosebumps, he almost says like his life is now changed and saved because he found fitness. And that for me is so, like, we've got so many photos where you look at them like, wow, they're different. Or someone who had knee and ankle pain and can now run around with their children again. Like Dean, he lost 79 pounds. He can just run with his kids, and it's so cool. But I think just changing someone's life to the point where us having this conversation right now, they wouldn't be able to watch his podcast if maybe they didn't start that journey. And now Mank is probably watching his podcast because he's all over self-development. So if you're listening, I could not be more prouder of the man that he's become, not just because who he's become. He's in our community group sharing motivation all the time. He fell in love with boxing as well, and that saved him too. And he shares his journey all the time. And he don't realize the fact that, fucking look at that. Goosebumps.
Yeah, look at that, solid.
The fact that he's now posting his journey has probably saved that knock-on effect so many more people's life. And for me, that's the one I would probably say. How about you?
I have this one girl, her name is Addie. She lives in Australia, and she actually got the Built Different tattooed on her. She's a 50-year-old lady, keep in mind.
No way.
She's 50, doesn't have any tattoos. And then right on the waistband got Built Different tattoo.
Jesus
and
Christ.
she wrote me this long message. She's just like, yo, I've always felt like I was different. I've always felt like I wanted more. And I mean, she's also lost like, I don't know, like 20-ish kilos or something like that.
Wow.
And I was thinking pounds, but I had to sit there and convert it for a second. And she just was like, wrote me this long thing. She's like, you've changed my life. Like, this is so amazing. And like, my mindset is on fire. And like, I just never even knew any of this stuff was possible. And I actually remember talking to her in my Instagram DMs.
That's insane.
Like literally, like I remember just like actually talking to her, and then like 6 months later, she has a tattoo on her, and she's like, she shows up to every single call that we do.
That's amazing.
And she's just like such a radiating force for everybody in there. And she has 2 autistic kids. She's started a new business.
Wow.
Throughout the process of her own transformation, her business increased by 50%.
Jesus Christ.
50. So she made significantly more money. She went on vacation recently and wore a bathing suit that she's never been able to wear in her whole life.
That's
she's
amazing.
50.
That's amazing.
And she got a tattoo. Like, I mean, like, it's just like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine being 50, getting my first tattoo and like doing all these amazing things, like, getting the bathing suit, having to buy the whole new wardrobe. Like you're saying, that's one of the biggest investments you have to make in the
Absolutely.
coaching
Yeah.
program is buying new clothes. And it's just amazing. And, I'm a dude, you know what I mean? Like, and I get a lot of girls that join my program.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, in the beginning, I was like, I don't know how to talk to these women. You know what I mean? Like, I want to talk to men. You know what I mean? And I started to, over time, really fall in love with the women because I'm like, man, they come, they bring the gossip. Like, it's like, they're really fun. Like,
awesome for community.
they're amazing on the calls. And then, like, they're so much more I mean, I can't say they're more appreciative than the men, but the men just don't know how to show it.
More expressive.
Yeah, like they're probably, jumping around in their underwear somewhere and saying like, I did the thing, you know what I mean? But they're not going to bring that on the calls with other people. Whereas the females will they'll start crying on the call and all this stuff. And I'm just so thankful for each and every one of them, but she's the one that stands out the most.
That is amazing.
And I've had multiple guys lose 100 pounds, which
Wow.
is
Yeah,
a
me
lot, like
too.
almost like
Yeah.
45 kilos or whatever. And, yeah, I think the women's are just like, they're always like my favorite.
Yeah, we primarily coach women. I would probably say about 80% of our program. And I started coaching women originally because I was watching my mom struggle with Slimming World, Weight Watchers growing up. And I just saw her always struggling. So I created a program originally to help my mom transform. And I just remember like her transformation was like amazing. And like she was almost like shouting from the rooftops about it because like I finally done it. And I was like, damn, like there's an issue here with certain females that are, I would say, more exposed to the fads and the Slimming Worlds and the Weight Watchers and the things that set them back, not push them forwards. But you're so right. When it comes to community and it comes to sharing wins and it comes to just bringing that fucking energy, like it is awesome. Like they're
so good.
It is so good. And I want to be respectful of your time as well. So coming towards the end of this podcast, there's one thing I want to get your thoughts on. Like one of my personal biggest things is, I don't want to, fucking say a bit more. When you go to like the day and you meet the person you could have become, right? It's one thing I think about all the time. I think I maybe got it from Bedros Kudyan. And it's almost like looking in the mirror. When we get to that point, when you kind of, it's time for you to meet your maker and you meet the person you could have become, what do you want that person to be like? Who do you want to see when it comes to the time you go, you look back on your life and you go, right, I'm about to meet the person I could, like, what was in store for me? What I don't know what you believe in. What God had planned for me? What do you want that person to be like?
I honestly don't care if he's rich or fit or anything. I just want him to not have any regrets. Like, I just want that person to just be like, you did everything that you wanted to do, and there's nothing left. And I feel like I do that every day. Like, traveling is a really big thing for me. Yes. Like, it's a big part of my happiness. Yeah. Traveling is huge, and just like meeting a lot of people and trying to leave my mark. I say one of the things that is very, very, very important to me is I always want people, when they have met me, to be like, what was it like to meet Ryan? And I always want people to say he was fucking dope. Yeah. I always want that to happen. Like, I never want to like leave any conversation and then like forget that person's name. Yeah. Or like, when like you forget someone's name, that means they didn't leave a big enough impact.
Absolutely.
And like, that's that just like really, really bothers me. So like, I try to bring as much energy as I can when I meet new people. Yeah. And I want people to remember me. I don't need to be remembered forever. I just want to be remembered enough to where it left a mark.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's what I try to do every day.
I mean, for those listening, you came onto this podcast to listen to yourself. To vouch for that, I was in a coffee shop yesterday, and you're mega successful, 40,000 odd clients, fucking a super busy guy, right? You got a fucking huge company to run. I was sitting down in a coffee shop, and you sat over, and you're like, dude, do you mind if I sit down? Like, yeah, of course. We shot the shit for 45 minutes. You're a busy guy. You got shit to do, right? And you just sat down. I was like, dude, let's talk about life, right? And it was just a cool conversation. There was no agenda. It was just, let's just shoot the shit about what we both believe in and what we think and life. And like, you didn't have to do that. You probably had shit to do. But, when you talk about being authentic and just going, I want to make someone's day better, right? I want to find something to do and, find something to help. And you just kind of sat down and shot the shit. And I think, going off what you just said, you want people to you want to leave your mark. Like, it's not just saying it on a podcast. It's actually living that shit. And I think that's what people need to breed into their day-to-day life with the promises they make themselves as well. So on a personal level, thank you very much. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And for those listening, where can they find out a little bit more about you or learn a little bit more about Ryan Fischer?
You can find me on Instagram at Ryan Fish, RyanFisch. I put it all on there. My stories can be aggressive at times. They can be funny. They can be sad. I could be crying on the story. You never know.
Absolutely. Well, I'll put Ryan's Instagram handles and social media in the show notes. But Ryan,
thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
For everyone listening, make sure you go through again, but take notes, because as we said, a simple 1 hour podcast can literally change your life. And this podcast can change your life if you go back, take notes and take action. So I hope you found it useful. We'll see you guys in the next episode.